Hey guys, coming back again with a video on carbs, but this time from a bit of a different perspective. Some people avoid carbs simply because they believe that it's going to help them lose weight faster, or because it makes them bloated. Okay, a lot of healthy people are concerned about the amount of gas that they produce. You know, some people think that their digestive system is malfunctioning, or there's something a lot more serious. Although excessive amounts can be obviously a symptom of a condition called irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, maybe food intolerance, allergy. Obviously it is, but a lot of the time it is just as simple as the things that you have eaten or the amount of air that you have swallowed. Just to let you guys know, there are two sources of gas, okay? And that's exogenous, which is the amount of air that you've swallowed. Normally what happens is, say if you're sipping on a straw, or you're sipping on a hot beverage, you're swallowing air, and normally that air will just stay there and gradually pass through your body. There's also endogenous, which is caused by the good bacteria in your stomach that digest food, essentially. So gas is created from a variety of chemicals like oxygen, carbon dioxide, hydrogen, methane. All of these can contribute towards your towards the gas. Oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon dioxide come from the swallowed air, and the rest come from the good bacteria. Some research tends to suggest that a lot of gas is primarily generated from the swallowed air rather than food that you eat. Obviously, if you do have a sensitive stomach, to whatever you eat, say spicy food or whatever, yeah, of course, then that can be more food generated than swallowed air, but for an average person it tends to be the amount of air that we swallow through the day. To reduce exogenous gas, so gas produced by swallowed air, you would need to limit things like chewing gum, smoking, sipping on hot beverages, slurping, drinking through straw. Even poor fitted dentures can make a difference. Okay, one of the things that people don't notice is, when you have a glass, and you've got a juice, and you go to sip it, you don't just sip it, you sip it, So that is so underrated, but it does cause a lot of gas to enter, a lot of air to enter your stomach. In regards to the endogenous gas, our colon contains many gas-producing bacteria that thrive on foods that contain poorly digested starches, and carbs especially tend to produce a lot of smelly gas because due to the fermentation process. The fermentation process, if you just imagine, it's like fermentation of grapes into the champagne, all the bubbles sizzle up. So that's essentially what happens in our colon when we eat carbs that are difficult to digest. To reduce endogenous gas production, you would need to limit some of the following foods. One of the biggest ones are beans. The reason for that is they contain a lot of starchy and complex carbs, and they're difficult for our body to digest. Now, luckily, there are some friendly bacteria in our colon, in our digestive tract, that break down those, that power through those starchy carbs and manage to break them down. However, as a result, the byproducts are hydrogen, carbon dioxide, and methane. Other foods to look out for are foods high in starch, such as cabbage, broccoli, whole grains. Whole grains are really, really healthy for you, but if you have too much of that, unfortunately, it can produce gas. Another thing is lactose, okay? Now, there is about 70% of adults worldwide that are lactose intolerant, okay? Now, lactose is just a type of sugar from carbs. So people who are lactose intolerant simply can't digest that type of sugar. Now, the reason for that is they lack an enzyme called lactase, or they don't produce enough of it, okay? And lactase is important to break down those kind of sugars. Now, in order to reduce the symptoms of lactose intolerance, you could use products like Digesta. I'll leave a link above or below, whichever platform you're watching this on. And Digesta essentially has those enzymes, those lactose breaking enzymes within it, which will help you break down lactose. Alternatively, what you could do is start eating lactose, but ease into it, you know, have a tiny little bit every so often, and then you build up on that. So start increasing lactose intake over some time. I would obviously do that very slowly. It's lactose intolerance is not an allergy, so it's not dangerous. However, obviously, if you have too much of it and it will continue to inflame your bowels, that can lead to things. So just be careful. Another thing that can cause a lot of gas production are low-calorie sweeteners like monk fruit sweetener, xylitol, mannitol. There's probably a few other things. So if you use it and you're having some issues with your stomach, that will be why. They are difficult to digest just because of the whole processing process. You know, they're highly processed products. So I would probably reduce them if you are having any sort of issues. So we're getting to the good part. So some hints and things to avoid to help you feel a little bit more comfortable through your day. So let's begin. One of the things is eat slowly. Okay, the faster you eat, the more air you're going to swallow. If you have loose dentures, it might be worth refitting them. If you have just given birth and you are suffering from postnatal drip, it might be worth getting some treatment for that. You need to manage your lactose as well, okay? Like I said, you can use a product called Digesta, or alternatively, just introduce lactose slowly into your diet, okay? It will help your system get used to the lactose and it will help you manage the symptoms a lot better. Another thing is gradually increase fiber, okay? It's really, really important that you don't just jump straight into eating a lot of fiber, okay? Just because fiber slows down your digestion, okay? It swells up in your stomach and it cleans your digestive tract. So, you know, if you jump straight to having 30 grams of fiber, your stomach's going to be like, oh God, you know, what's going on here? Whereas if you slowly allow it to adjust, it might be a lot easier for you. Okay, now things to avoid, okay? One of the things that's really important is do not talk whilst you're eating, okay? That's kind of part of the manners, but it does actually affect the amount of air that you swallow as well. So if you reduce the amount of times you talk, it's likely that you'll reduce the amount of air that you swallowed. Drinking from a bottle, okay? Funnily enough, how many of you will drink from a bottle? You know, a Coke bottle, a Sprite bottle, like, it does happen. But before you take a sip, okay, you always take a deep breath, always. You just, and then you take it, or even slowly do, and then you drink. Like, it's a natural reaction, and I think everybody does that, but it does affect the amount of air that you swallow. Smoking and chewing tobacco. Obviously smoking, I think that's quite an obvious one. You pretty much inhale things. And chewing is just when you chew, you open your mouth, and a lot of the time you breathe as well, so you'll be swallowing a lot of air. Now, you should also limit the amount of foods that you eat that contain sorbitol and fructose. So foods like strawberries, bananas, cherries, plums, apricots, apples, just because they do contain a lot of those sugars and they can cause some digestive sort of issues. Sipping hot beverages. I think we're all guilty of that. Okay, if I have a tea and it's quite hot, I will sip on it. So the best thing that you can do is just let it cool down, so when you go to drink it, you can actually take a normal drink. Okay, but yeah, so that is all my tips and hints, and so the reasoning behind why carbs make you bloated. Okay, it's the whole fiber and the whole fermentation process. Carbs are simply complex and very difficult for us to digest, but they do not make you fat. Okay. If you do enjoy this kind of content, obviously there will be a lot more coming. Please subscribe or like my page, follow my page, and yeah, if you guys have any more questions, or if there's anything that you'd like me to answer, please don't hesitate to contact me either through private messages or comment below, and I will make sure to answer.